There's been a trend in the amusement park industry the past couple of years. Parks all over the country have been moving away from the more thrilling roller coasters in lieu of more family coasters. I think we figured out why this is and if this is actually going to continue. So make sure you stay tuned to the end of the video to find out. But first, let's go into a little bit of a history. Back in the 90s and through the 2000s, it was all about building bigger and faster and steeper roller coasters.
Yeah, every park was just trying to break the other park's record for height, speed, and whatever.
Started out with Magnum XL 200, Millennium Force, Top Thrill, King to Ka, Goliath at Six Flags Magic Mountain. All sorts of coasters were just trying to go bigger and bigger and bigger. $30 million roller coasters were far from unusual for parks to be building. And that's a huge investment for parks to make. And they didn't mind making it because they saw Cedar Point and they saw the attendance uptick that they got and all the positive media whenever they put out the roller coasters like Magnum XL 200 and Millennium Force. So they wanted to be part of that. But just as quickly as Cedar Point started the height wars, they ended it. In 2007, they built a brand new roller coaster called Maverick.
Maverick is only 105 feet and is a lot of people's favorite roller coaster, either at Cedar Point or just in general. It's a really good ride.
Parks at that point saw, hey, you know what? We can build a top-notch roller coaster and not have to keep going higher and higher and higher. But the thing is, it was still an expensive roller coaster to build. So these coasters that have been coming out in the past years now, we got Pantheon, we got Velocicoaster. These are still expensive roller coasters that parks are still investing heavily in. But that's why I said the height wars are over, because thrilling roller coasters were still the thing. That's what every park wanted. They wanted crazy launches.
Absolutely.
They wanted all sorts of stuff that made for a thrilling coaster. That was up until the past couple years.
Especially until this year.
We saw coasters like Wild Mouse at Cedar Point. Next year, Good Gravy at Holiday World.
Dark Coaster this year, Big Bear Mountain. There's a ton, I can't name them all, like a ton of family coasters coming in this year and next year.
And like we said earlier, the height wars and the coaster wars started because Cedar Point got such an uptick in attendance and positive publicity. So parks wanted in on that. So there has to be a reason why family coasters are the new thing. They're the new trend. And we were trying to think, okay, exactly why is this? Cedar Point said before that whenever they started adding a bunch of the restaurants, they said that they were putting out surveys and finding out that families weren't really coming to Cedar Point anymore. They said that they were losing the family dollars, so they started adding things like restaurants and more family-themed attractions. So you could say that all parks maybe had the same thing, that
Possibly.
maybe families just weren't coming to a lot of the Six Flags parks, a lot of the Cedar Fair parks. So they're like, hey, you know what? We need to start adding family attractions, family coasters to bring those people back. Or what we think is kind of more likely, it's just the fact that we went through a couple years of COVID. COVID decimated the amusement park industry.
Yeah,
Parks were losing money.
Everything was losing money. And so they don't have quite the money to spend immediately after COVID.
Also, if you look at some of the reports coming from Cedar Fair and Six Flags, which are the two biggest chains in the United States, they're saying that there was a huge downturn in attendance. Cedar Fair was blaming it a lot on weather because we had a really rainy summer this past in 2023. And there were the forest fires in Canada. That smoke was blowing down into all parts of the United States, especially like the eastern and more Midwestern areas. So parks like Dorney and Great Adventure and Cedar Point.
Kings Island a little bit.
So those parks would all have lost a little bit of attendance because there was smoke.
People weren't going outside, and that was like, that took out, like that happened for a little while. Like that was going on and people weren't going outside because it was unhealthy.
So Cedar Fair, I brought up Great Adventure. I didn't hear Six Flags make that claim, but I assume that they would make the same claims that Cedar Fair, made. But there's just not as many people. So not as many people means not as much money. So this could just be a short-term answer to add new rides and give something from a much needed demographic, the family demographic. because families were neglected as far as roller coasters go at places like Cedar Point for quite some time, and Kings Island. So this is kind of like, hey, you know what? We can add some cheaper roller coasters and cater to a demographic that's kind of fading a little bit.
And a lot of parks don't really have that much room. It depends on the park, of course, but a lot of parks are running out of room because they keep building stuff.
You brought up space. Space is a really big thing that not a lot of people talk about, only with Cedar Point. It seems like Cedar Point's the only park that people bring up space.
Because like Cedar Point, they really can't add anything big unless they remove something.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of space because they're on a peninsula. And then you have parks like we keep bringing up Kings Island as well. Kings Island has a lot of space.
They removed Coaster Vortex a few years ago, and they have a big land. They have a lot of land right there, so they have some space. But a lot of parks don't, like Dollywood. I mean, I guess they have a bit of space now. But a lot of parks are running out of space because they've built so many coasters and so many rides over the past handful of years.
So you have these family coasters that are just smaller footprints.
You could fit them into what you've already built.
So between cost saving and fitting into the smaller footprint that the parks actually have to work with right now, I think that the family coaster is here to stay, and a lot of manufacturers are really pushing their family coaster models.
Like RMC just put out Wild Moose, so that's their new family coaster that they want to sell. Like a lot of manufacturers that weren't building family coasters before are trying to get into that a little bit.
So I think the fact that coaster manufacturers are looking more towards the family roller coaster segment of their portfolio, I think that kind of says that they're kind of expecting the amusement park industry to go kind of in a different direction. So I think we kind of see the trend. Not that there's not going to be any thrilling roller coasters.
I see the trend continuing, but not to the extent that it is now. Because right now, that's all parks are getting. So many, like tons of family coasters. It's not going to be like this forever. Like parks are going to have to get some like thrill coasters. Like Cedar Point's technically getting Top Thrill 2. I don't really count that. Like some actual ground up stuff. I mean, it's got to happen a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely, and we're far from saying that the thrill coaster is gone.
Is it going to happen less?
Yes, I think you're going to see more. Where if you look at coasters that were built in 2016, 17, 18, you look at a few years, and it's like you have the thrill coasters, and then you have a couple family coasters sprinkled in there. I think that's going to be kind of flipped for a couple years, maybe not to that full extent.
Yeah, not like it is right now.
I think it'll be a little bit more even. So we are entering the age of the family coaster right now. So buckle up or don't buckle up, because family coasters a lot of times don't have seatbelts.
That is true.
So this is a ride that I hope you're ready for, because don't expect your park to get a ton of thrill coasters over the next decade.
And some of these family coasters aren't necessarily a bad thing. Like Wild Nest Cedar Point's a good ride. Like Big Bear Mountain people love that. Good Gravy should be good. Snoopy Soapbox Racer should be good. Like a lot of these rides should be good. So it's not a bad thing, but you still want Iron Gwazi.
Yeah, you still want the big coasters. But let us know what you think down in the comment section below. Let us know, are we way off? Are family coasters just over the past couple of years? Is this the only time that they're coming, and then it's going to be back to normal in the next couple of years? Let us know what you think. And while you're down there, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It helps us so much if you're joining us once again. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for watching. Thank you for coming back.
Absolutely.
And if you feel like supporting the channel just a little bit extra, you can be like one of these people right here who joined our channel membership, and they get things like exclusive videos, exclusive shout outs like right here.
Exclusive pictures. We update on a lot of our trips, which is really cool. Tons of stuff. You can be a part of this great community. Go check it out. It is great.
And that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. We'll see you guys right here next time on Beach Cliff Studios.